Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's upload, hopefully it will be a shorter one. If it turns out to be 16 minutes, well then I'm wrong. But we will be talking about the pattern change, the ongoing pattern change, basically what it's doing. I know I've been mentioning this for quite a few videos already, but just the contrast between the very warm conditions and very cold conditions are still gonna continue for apparently a pretty long time according to the latest models. So I still want to talk about that, and again, the details are yet to be determined, especially by the storm tracks, because they're powerful enough to almost control the pattern by themselves. Regardless, quickly I want to mention one thing. If you guys are new to this channel and you like what you're seeing, consider checking out the other videos on this channel. Consider subscribing. It's free. And if you are a returning viewer, liking a video would be absolutely fantastic. Otherwise, let's get into this video. So the European model, let's start off. And again, I want to focus in this video on the temperatures, so the temperature anomalies, not really the precipitation. I will be making a video separately about that tomorrow or in the evening of October 21st. So notice that right now we're looking at generally pretty warm conditions across the south, cool conditions to the north, and this is relative to average. Obviously, if you were knew anything about the weather, you would just say, oh, it's going to be colder in the north, warmer in the south. Yeah, but this is compared to average, and this, oftentimes is the case, but not at such levels. So notice that Wednesday, for example, that's today, we could be looking at some pretty stark anomalies, 20, 23, 22 degrees in South Dakota, Minnesota. That's where the snowpack is very heavy, 6 to 7 inches of solid snow is laying on the ground. So the cold air is definitely intensifying over those areas. Notice we do see equally as warm conditions across the northeast into the south. We see 10, 11, 13, warm temperatures for sure. And as we push this into the future, notice what we see is Alberta seeing negative 40, possibly even some negative 50 degrees below average, not below Fahrenheit. It will get close to 0 in terms of Fahrenheit, though, maybe even a bit below. But notice the south stays warm, the north stays to the cooler side, and basically we see this constant battle between them. And honestly, where exactly this lines up, say for example you live in Chicago, that's where I live, so I just chose that. Some days like tomorrow, today, we could be looking at negative 4, negative 5 degrees, so just a bit chillier. And then Thursdays, for example, Thursday you could see as a warmer day. We could be looking at 11, 12 degrees, while the cold air yet intensifies across the north. We would be looking at a pretty powerful storm system at this time. But notice that the temperatures do peak around almost 20 to 25 degrees above average. Look at that. Almost reaching that negative 50, which is just remarkable. And this cold isn't just dangerous because of how cold it will be, but also because of livestock. Cattle may not be necessarily ready for the winter months yet, prepped, and this type of cold will be dangerous. I think they have like warnings up for that. It's a pretty high level risk for that. Notice that the cold air just spills in. Look at that, almost 50 degrees below Fahrenheit, or below average. Some locations though seeing almost 30 above across the east, and this will be constantly going back and forth. And I know I keep saying that, but it's the constant truth. I just keep looking at that spot. It's so cool to look at how cold it could get there. Generally though, I would say negative 15 to negative 25, which is still pretty significant. In the longer term, Saturday into Sunday, notice that a lot of the warm air gets shoved to the south. We see the extremes stay where they kind of were, either the southwest and northeast, but we do see a lot of the more moderate, chillier spill into northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, negative 5 to 10 degrees. So that's definitely going to be noticeable, but not life-threatening like in portions of the mountains right there. Look at that. So as we push this forward, you could see that another snowstorm would be forming at around this time. So we again see those contrasts set up. And again, I mean, you could drive across the state of Oklahoma and start off in the Panhandle, being in the 30s, and drive into the southeastern corner, being into the 70s, 80s. So definitely concerning. And look at this, the European model actually just explodes with very cold temperatures, not even just confined to the mountains at this point, but confined to the plains and into the Midwest, especially with that snow cover. The east, the coastal areas will definitely be seeing the brunt of the warmth. And again, southern Canada, really southeastern Canada, maybe kind of on that. It's really the Canadian border that kind of divides it, as you can see. Sometimes seeing quite a bit warmer, other days seeing a bit chillier, but no extremes at least compared to what they're seeing in the plains. As we push this forward into time, around a week from now, warmer gets pushed and pushed further off the shore. We do see a bit of warmer move back into the northwest. Northwestern United States, firstly, though, southwestern Canada will receive that first. And notice that this cold air spills into these locations, negative 16 to 20 degrees below average. And then it moderates a bit, but we definitely still see the mentioning, or the loom of chilly temperatures on the horizon. Let's take a look at the total, the 2-meter temperatures, so what it will show on the thermometer. By the way, I'm focusing on the European the most because of how accurate the European usually is compared to the GFS in terms of temperatures. Usually is a more moderate model, and you may have just heard that and think I'm crazy. A more moderate model looking or showing 50 degrees below average. Yeah, I mean, it is a moderate model, and so you know that when it shows those readings, it's looking pretty chilly. So let's move this into the future. Again, this is Wednesday, Thursday. Again, you can see Chicago, Wednesday, 50s. Into Thursday, we're looking at the 70s. Even portions of the south will be just downright hot. And again, the mountains during the nighttime hours, that is very, very cold there. As this moves further and further to, look at that right there, negative 5, 7 degrees Fahrenheit. Where the warm front is, and it's where it's allocated, there could be, again, very warm temperatures to the south, but to the north and northwest, either starting off moderately chilly to extreme cold. And then again, as I mentioned, this pushes further and further to the south with the cold air almost like winning over the south of the warmer southern air. Some anomalies, again, getting into the negative 30 to 40 degrees below Fahrenheit in terms of anomalies, so not below 0. I'm saying this wrong. I'm probably confusing you guys. But in terms of the actual readings, you could see that it's not miserably cold. You know, it's not at negative 30 Fahrenheit, but it gets down to the single digits for sure, and even some areas seeing below. And by the way, these are the daytime highs. So if you live in Montana, you could be looking at 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit during the day. During the night, all hell breaks loose, and as you can see, these temperatures just get brutal cold. Minneapolis, Minnesota. This is going to freeze up the ground. Many farmers and livestock or farmers could, they have some crops that are still harvested in certain regions. And while this cold air usually, seems like a really bad thing, it might be because, see, corn, when it's dried up and left to dry for livestock feed and just in general feed, it could be harvested, even when it's really cold or snowy. And honestly, sometimes when the ground is frozen, it helps the combine not get stuck in the mud or wet conditions. So definitely a lot of snow isn't good, but if it's snow and cold, at this time of the year, it's really just the livestock that has the best chance of seeing some life-threatening risks. Notice these are the daytime highs on Tuesday. Very, very chilly. The southeast is the only warm location, even getting into portions of the southwest, while California stays warm. I mean, it's not ridiculously hot. It's 60s, 50s, 70s. Mountains in New Mexico getting some chilly air. And again, the nights are going to be the colder ones. You can see widespread 20s, southeastern Canada, getting influenced by a bit of that warmer air, but definitely getting a taste of that. And around this time is where the temperatures start moderating a bit more, so you can see that the nighttime lows look something more of what the daytime highs looked at around a couple days prior. So until late next week, things should start warming up, even some nice pleasant days, 40s, 50s, still a bit chilly to the north. But then, again, winter's coming. This cold air will be just getting more and more further to the south. It's just a matter of how far or how long we can keep it to the south or to the north away from us. You can see right there across Hudson Bay, the overall temperatures are getting into the 30s. So at the beginning of the forecast, you can see that it was a bit more reluctant to go over freezing, getting to that 32-degree mark, and that's because the water was a bit warmer. Some of these locations saw absolutely remarkable anomalies this year for the summer in terms of heat. Very hot. Let's take a glance at the European ensemble members, so not just one model, but a whole group of models. Generally, though, they are all mimicking the same thing. This was yesterday. This is today. You can see that the warm air is starting to push to the north ahead of that storm system. It forms, the contrasts deepen. The warm air gets shoved along with that storm, and the cold air gets invited. Not for too long. Starting into this weekend, we see another storm developing. We see another push of warm air, and then the cold air pushes a bit further south this time, and the European ensemble isn't too confident on how far this will dip down into the south. The European itself is a bit more confident in that, but if you were to look at, for example, the GFS anomalies, GEFS, a group of GFS-like models, all in the same crazy family, notice that we see very similar things, which is honestly a good thing. They all have differences, but those differences aren't something out of the ordinary. You know, when I say agreement, it's subjective, because for models, agreement is usually still disagreement, and that's just the weather for you. Disagreement means showing completely two different things. One's showing spring, one's showing fall. So notice the GFS takes it a bit slower, because it's every 6 hours instead of every 12 with the ensembles of the European. Generally, though, again, you could see that the cold air does dip a bit further to the south into today and tomorrow. But by Thursday, we see the warmer temperatures pushing back to the north because of that developing storm system. Both sides increase, look very warm, very cold. Warm air gets shoved to the north and east. A lot of cold air infiltrates but gets stopped by the warm air because another storm system tries developing. The GEFS ensembles aren't too confident about how strong that will get, so they are more willing to throw that colder air. And some of that centered across the southwestern United States. Very, very chilly potential. And then afterwards, you could see the pattern definitely breaks. Still more dominated by the cool weather. And honestly, after that, it's tough to see what happens. I've mentioned it's been trending warmer, and that has been the case mostly, but there obviously are a few, things that could go wrong, and few is just an underestimate. The Canadian, this is just one model by itself. It doesn't have an ensemble group, or at least not on this website, really, or at least that I know of. I may be wrong, but notice Thursday we see warm air pushing to the north, cold air to the south. Does relatively dissimilar to what the GFS does. Brings the warmer air not as far to the north as the European does. And look at that. I mean, that's just, holy cow. Those are just ridiculous anomalies. That is just mind-boggling cold, to say the least. And then, again, lots of warm air gets pushed to the north and east ahead of that second storm system. And the cold air does break apart a bit with the Canadian, and it does its own little thing. But that's basically it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you just got a brief thing of what's to come. An influx of cold and warm, and really they're going to be fighting over a similar area, kind of splitting the central United States. So to wrap things up, I just want to give a brief summary about what I just mentioned. So it won't be another 14 minutes, don't worry. But we see, generally, if you live across, say, the southeast, anywhere north of kind of Oklahoma, Arkansas, Tennessee, Virginia, anywhere south, I mean, generally expect warmer conditions. Some cold may get to you towards the next week and a half. Generally warm. If you live anywhere north of that, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Missouri, Kansas, especially those states I mentioned, you will be kind of a back and forth. One day warm, one day cold, one day warm, one day cold, and then finally it pushes into more of a colder pattern in about a week, or about a half a week from now into this weekend. And if you live anywhere north of, let's say, Illinois, Iowa, Nebraska, kind of this general area, expect quite a bit of cool weather. So let me just draw this out. I forgot I had a drawing tool. Anywhere south of this area and east right there, expect warm conditions mainly dominating. Anywhere between these locations, so that includes a lot of the major cities across Canada, expect a battleground, back and forth temperature fluctuations. And then anywhere north and west of this is just going to be very, very cold, dangerous cold, way more dangerous than what the heat poses in the southeast. So thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all guys on the next episode. See ya. Bye.